Clara Barton was born on December 25, 1821 in Oxford, Massachusetts. Her full name was Clarissa Harlow Barton. She was raised by a farming family. Her dad was Captain Steve Barton. He led this household in a military manner. She's the youngest of all 5 children. Her mother was Sarah Barton. She grew up as a shy child. At the age of 11, she got her first taste of nursing. Clara's sister Sally was born 10 years before. She took the responsibility. Clara's favorite lesson came from her brother David.
Barton was 17 years old when she started teaching. She was also working as a recording clerk in the U.S. Patent Office in Washington, D.C. when the first units of federal troops poured into the city in 1861. Barton was never satisfied with the remaining supplies at the medical units at the near column. It would take hours or even days to get their supplies. At Antietam, she told the drivers of her supply wagons to follow the cannon and travel all night. They would pull ahead of military medical units. While the battle raged, she and her associates dashed about bringing relief and hope to the field. She nursed, comforted, and cooked for the wounded. Toward the end of the war, she wrote to many families about the men who had been reported missing. As the Civil War started to get bigger, hospitals started to get overflowed. Barton would visit her patients daily and would give them compassion. She would feed those who were too weak to feed themselves and sometimes help write letters to the families. Often she saw many men who were left on the battlefield for hours to starve or die, and they never got the chance to go to a hospital, and if they did, they had already gotten infections or diseases.
Early in 1861, Barton returned to Washington, D.C. when the Civil War broke out. She was one of the first volunteers to appear at the Washington Infirmary to care for wounded soldiers. After her father's death, late in 1861, Barton left the city hospitals to go among the soldiers in the field. Her presence and the supplies she brought with her in 3 army wagons was particularly welcome at the Battle of Antietam.
Barton often cooked hot meals for the soldiers. Thousands of troops called Barton the angel of the battlefield. In the Battle of Antietam in September 1862, with no war showing a sign of abating, Barton found herself in another mule-drawn wagon, clopping along the dusty roads of Maryland as a part of a 10-mile-long Union Army caravan. This time she had not been permitted to take along any female companions. Her assistants were 5 soldiers. On July 1863, Union cannons bombarded the Fort Wagner. The 54th Massachusetts Regiment led to the assault after holding the fort under siege for months.
Known as the Angel of the Battlefield during the Civil War, she established several tree schools in New Jersey, and she organized her own volunteers to distribute supplies to battlefields. On Sunday, August 31st, 1862, the Second Battle of Bull Run was taught in Fairfax, Virginia, and Barton would wait in a boxcar of an army train and wait for the men who were wounded before she was signed into a battlefield service at Cedar Mountain in Virginia. Since there were no eating utensils, she would use water buckets, tin cups, stew pans, tin dishes, 3 plates, and bread knives to serve over 3,000 men. After each jar of preserves and containers of food they had brought and been used up, it was converted into a dish.
In 1866, Clara began a lecture tour throughout the Northeast and Midwest describing her Civil War experience. In November 1867, she met suffrage leaders Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, becoming friends with both and kept herself firmly with the suffrage movement. Clara Barton and another group of nurses founded the American Red Cross in Washington, D.C. on May 21, 1881. Barton's inspiration came from the hearing of the Swiss-inspired Global Red Cross Network while visiting Europe following the Civil War. Returning home, she worked really hard for the American Red Cross for the ratification of the Geneva Convention protecting the war-injured, which the United States ratified in 1882. Barton led the Red Cross for 23 years and eventually passed away in Glen Echo, Maryland on April 12, 1912. Her strong will and long-lasting legacy will live on from founding the American Red Cross and all the other courageous things she has done throughout the Civil War.